Rock, what I love about the XFL is we don't favor quarterbacks. Quarterbacks get hit in this league. There's no sliding. They get hit out there.
Yeah, the quarterbacks put it on line just as much as every other player. No sliding in here, and the quarterbacks are telling all the other defensive players, hey, you just bring it too.
Absolutely. I love it. That's the part of the game I love. No pansy quarterbacks here. They get popped.
No candy-ass jabronis in the XFL.
Well, I'm pretty sure most of you have heard the recent news of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson purchasing the XFL last Monday. Now, this purchase came from The Rock, leading a consortium of investors which includes his ex-wife and business partner, Danny Garcia, along with Redbird Capital Partners, and the group would go on to purchase the XFL for an estimated $15 million. And this story obviously made huge headlines everywhere, as The Rock, as the face of the group, is probably one of the biggest movie stars in Hollywood today. This certainly is more of an interesting headline than some anonymous hedge fund manager emerging as the new face of the XFL. While the face value of this transaction didn't really raise any eyebrows at $15 million, however guys, this deal can potentially be a blockbuster deal worth north of $100 million after it's all said and done. Anyways, let's take a look and see what this deal potentially means to the XFL and also the NFL. But before we begin, guys, welcome to my channel. If you haven't noticed yet, I've been dropping a lot of NFL news content. So if you enjoy these videos and feel like I've done enough to earn your trust as a content creator, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you get the update on every video release. On top of that, I've recently moved all my NFL stories and analysis videos to a new channel, Clasher Sports. So if you're interested, hit that page and check it out. Link will be in the description box below. Okay, so for those of you who don't know, the XFL initially started back in 2001, and like most things when going toe-to-toe with the NFL, basically flopped. And fast forward to 2018, when WWE's Vince McMahon decided to resuscitate the league to start right after Super Bowl 54 on February 8, 2020. And the 8-team league would begin with a 10-week season, and after instant rating success in week 1, where they averaged a whopping 3.1 million viewers for its 4 games, the ratings would dip by almost half by week 3, essentially losing half of its audience after 2 weeks. And ultimately, by week 5, we all know what happened when the league suspended operations due to the pandemic. Now, in today's unique sports climate, we've recently seen the likes of the UFC, NBA, and MLB back on our television sets. However, the MLB, unlike the UFC and NBA, are not playing in a bubble. And with the MLB currently struggling to contain the outbreak, there's a lot of rumblings in the media that the whole season may just be scrapped. Guys, there are teams like the Miami Marlins who have a total of 18 players who've tested positive for the virus. On top of that, you have 13 players from the St. Louis Cardinals organization who've also tested positive. And with the commissioner currently suspending 10 Marlins games, it's really putting the whole league in jeopardy. But on the other side, with the NBA and UFC playing in a bubble, we haven't seen any new cases as of yet. And I'm not saying this is all the result of playing in a bubble, but it does raise the question if there are benefits playing in one. However, with the NFL almost a month away from kickoff, we've seen countless players deciding to opt out for the 2020 season. And a lot of that has to do with their safety, as many players don't feel like the league and owners are really taking all the extreme measures to ensure player safety when the season begins. And for whatever reason, I really don't know, but the NFL just does not want to entertain the idea of playing in a bubble. Even with all that and what we've seen going on in baseball, you would think they'd want to ensure that there would be no delays midway through the season. But maybe there are just too many teams in the NFL or not enough facilities to accommodate them, as you're dealing with a group much larger than the NBA or UFC. With about 80 to 100 players and personnel per team, you're looking at a total of around 1,600 individuals. Now, this is where The Rock's acquisition of the XFL may potentially become an astronomical deal when it's all said and done. With only 8 teams and 4 games, the XFL essentially has a much easier task of playing in a bubble than the NFL. They can literally play all 4 games on one weekend in the same stadium, much like the NBA. And imagine what would happen to the NFL if, like the MLB, began seeing clusters of positive tests within teams. Guys, I really don't want to imagine this because this is the last thing I'd ever want to happen. Much like you, I've been waiting patiently for the NFL to kickstart the season again, but given how things are looking right now, it does really have to make you think. And a lot of the media are even beginning to question whether the NFL would be able to sustain their season all the way through to the Super Bowl. On top of that, you already have 53 players who've opted out of the 2020 season, and with the possibility of more to follow before the Thursday opt-out deadline. Imagining this scenario where, knock on wood, the NFL had to suspend all operations, Think about not only the potential market share, but the fact that there are limited live sports going on these days. How many of us would tune in to watch the XFL? For me, aside from making content for you guys, I feel like I'm just watching paint dry on a wall during my spare time. So of course, I definitely take the opportunity to watch the XFL, something I wouldn't have ever thought of doing before. Just looking at the recent NBA restart ratings for the Lakers-Clippers match, the Nielsen ratings for that game actually drew double the amount of viewership from a regular season primetime game. And this just clearly shows you the state we're in right now. We're looking for entertainment during these times, and sports has usually always been that form of entertainment for most of us. Ultimately, the XFL is going to be gaining additional exposure given today's current climate, and think about how much potential upside there is in this deal for The Rock and its group of partners. While $15 million sounds like a boatload of money and probably requires a fleet of Brinks trucks to move around, the same isn't the case for The Rock and his partners. I'm estimating he's going to be investing a portion of that $15 million, so maybe $3 to $5 million, and given the fact that he's worth over $300 million himself, if this takes off, he can add some serious dollars to his bank account. And if things don't go according to plan, he's only investing a few $1 million himself. Just the potential upside is so huge, and the fact that he was somewhat a part of the initial launch back in 2001 and saw what worked and what didn't gives him a real advantage taking over the league. Furthermore, The Rock is one of the most bankable stars in Hollywood. Guy literally turns shit to gold. Basically, he has a Midas touch. I don't even think he's ever made a bad movie, box office speaking. And if you ever watched Ballers when he played Spencer, he was one that brought an expansion team to Vegas and took on the NCAA. So running a league shouldn't be as challenging. Anyways, guys, let me know in the comment section what you think of this deal, and also, would you like to see this channel cover the XFL if for some reason the NFL were to suspend operations?
After 6 long years, The Rock says, finally, professional football has come back to Los Angeles. Six years ago, NFL Suits decided Los Angeles shouldn't have a football team. 6 years ago, NFL Suits decided Los Angeles wasn't good enough for a football team. We want the NFL Suits to fill their bags up with their little cell phones, with their little dinner reservations, and then we want you to add one more thing, a brand new red and black XFL football. And then we say to you, the NFL Suits, and to everyone around who wants to tell us, the people, what we should have and what we shouldn't have, we respectfully tell you to take your bags, turn them sideways, and stick them straight up your candy asses! If you smell what the XFL is cooking.